William James wrote that the world of the newborn infant is a blooming, buzzing confusion. It is one of the most quoted phrases in the history of psychology, and one of the most misunderstood. People often read it as merely descriptive. Of course, the baby's world is confusing, because the baby has not yet learned anything. But James meant something far more radical, with implications that extend far beyond infancy into the deepest questions of how human consciousness constructs reality. James's point was not just that the infant lacks knowledge. It is that the infant lacks the organizing frameworks, the categories, the habits of attention, the learned expectations, through which the adult nervous system sorts and structures the raw sensory input streaming in from the world. The adult does not experience a blooming, buzzing confusion because the adult's brain has learned, through years of experience, to immediately organize sensory data into recognizable patterns, meaningful objects, and coherent scenes. What we experience as the world is not the raw input. It is a massively processed, interpreted, organized construction. This is a remarkable claim, and modern neuroscience has confirmed it in extraordinary detail. The visual cortex, for example, does not simply receive light signals from the eyes and pass them onward. It actively predicts what it will receive based on prior experience, and what we consciously see is largely the brain's prediction, corrected by the actual input only when the prediction goes significantly wrong. This is what neuroscientists call predictive processing or predictive coding, and it is among the most important theoretical frameworks in contemporary cognitive neuroscience. James had the essential insight in 1890. Consider what this means. You do not see the world as it is. You see the world as your brain predicts it to be, continuously updated by sensory confirmation. The experienced cup on the table is not a direct perception of an external object. It is the brain's best current model of what is causing the current pattern of sensory input. Usually, this model is accurate enough for practical purposes, but it is always a model, never a direct transcript of reality. This has profound implications for how we understand attention. James showed that what we attend to dramatically shapes what we perceive, not just in terms of what we notice, but in terms of what is literally constructed by the perceptual system. When you attend to a face in a crowd, you see a face. When you attend to a pattern, you see a pattern. The same sensory input, organized differently by attention, produces genuinely different perceptual experiences. This is not just a philosophical point. It is a neurological one. The creative implications of James's developmental account are significant. The infant, having not yet formed rigid organizing frameworks, can still genuinely encounter the raw richness of sensory experience. As adults, our habitual categories filter and organize so rapidly and automatically that we rarely encounter anything truly new. We see what we expect to see. We hear what we predict we will hear. The great artists, the painters, the writers, the composers who manage to make us see the world freshly, are those who have found ways to temporarily suspend or bypass the adult's organizing frameworks and encounter experience more directly. James would recognize this as a recovery of something like the infant's openness, but disciplined and directed by adult intention. The cultural implications are equally significant. Our organizing frameworks are not purely individual. They are shaped by the culture we were raised in, by its categories, its assumptions about what is normal and what is deviant, who is trustworthy and who is dangerous, what is beautiful and what is ugly. Prejudice, in this framework, is not just a moral failure. It is a perceptual one. It is the systematic misapplication of organizing categories that makes certain people invisible in their full humanity, seen only through the filter of the category. This is one reason why prejudice is so difficult to address through argument alone. The organizing framework operates below the level of deliberate reasoning. It shapes what is perceived before judgment even begins. James's developmental account also illuminates what happens in altered states of consciousness, whether through illness, psychedelics, extreme stress, or deep meditative absorption. Many of these states are characterized by the temporary weakening of the habitual organizing frameworks. The world becomes strange again, richer in some dimensions and harder to navigate in others. The blooming, buzzing confusion returns, in some measure. And often, as psychedelic researchers are finding, this temporary dissolution of habitual frameworks is followed by a reorganization, a seeing of things in new patterns that persists after the ordinary organizing frameworks return. James would say, the infant's chaos is not primitive. It is original. And the adult who has learned to organize that chaos into a coherent world has gained extraordinary practical capability, but has also lost something. The capacity to be genuinely surprised by what is already there. The capacity to encounter experience without immediately recognizing it. The world is always richer than what we see. Subscribe to The Psychology of William James and keep exploring what lies beyond the edge of our habitual frameworks.